welcome to the DNX podcast. My name is Sylvia Christman and I am your host. I'm here today with my friend Ashwini Anburajan, who is one of the founding partners of 22X, a fund that is entirely funded by equity and startups. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to point out something really exciting, that we're actually sitting here at the TED office where you are a resident. And we just chatted about how exciting it is that our podcast follows the TED model of not going longer than 20 minutes. And now we're here actually recording this in these offices. It's super exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the TED experience has been absolutely incredible. I've never met a more amazing group of people who work here and who are residents here. There's a residency for TED that you can apply to twice a year. You get to be in the TED offices for 14 weeks, and they train you on how to give a TED Talk. And then you give a TED Talk at the end of 14 weeks. So I've gone through 14 weeks of training. I'm going to be giving a talk on democratizing access to capital tied to my work on 22X Fund. And that'll be next week. So I'm practicing a lot.
Amazing. That's incredible. We're going to put the link below this podcast to make sure people can link to it and listen to your podcast, to your TED Talk. Is it going to be here in New York?
It will be in New York. It unfortunately won't be out until September, but it'll be in the auditorium that they have here.
Oh, very cool. Can't wait. I hope I can make it. Do I get an invite?
Of course.
Self-inviting.
Of course.
Anyway, I'm so glad that we could make this happen today. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about blockchain and what inspired you to actually fund or start 22X.
So 22X started because of my own search for funding as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I literally was told by VCs that your company can sell for $50 million, $70 million, but we're still not going to invest because the VC model is designed to only fund companies that can sell for over $1 billion. And I think that limits the number of ideas that get funded, the number of companies that get created, and the people that could actually receive that funding. And so I was accepted to 500 Startups Accelerator last summer. And when we were out there, the ICO craze was happening. Companies raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And we looked at each other as founders and everyone started saying, well, I'm going to raise an ICO. Well, I'm going to raise an ICO. I think my company is really well suited for an ICO. Until one guy goes, how cool if we could all raise one together and combine the value of all of our companies into one offering. And you know, startups founders compete for funding. They don't cooperate.
Right.
But you know, that's the beauty of blockchain, that it can transform that entire equation. And so we decided to work together as a group, as a cooperative of companies, combine our equity into one communal pool and tokenize it. By tokenizing it, what that means is that you turn it into, the shares in your company are traded into tradable cryptocurrency that can be bought and sold online and that any investor can potentially buy. And so we created this offering called 22X Fund. It's designed to fund the companies that are participating in it. And by default, because we decided to open it to all the companies that were at 500 Startups Accelerator with us that summer, we've actually created one of the most diverse venture funds in the world. 50% of the founders are international, 20% of them are women, and we were able to fund all of these companies. And I think it sets a new precedent for the market. We're doing something new, and it's showing how blockchain can be applied to really change the system, in this case, VC.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know I watched you get an award last week during Blockchain Week here in New York. And tell us a little bit more about that. What was it for?
Yeah, that was it was for innovation and venture funding. It was from Microsoft, and it was delivered at the very first Women on the Block conference that was designed to promote women in blockchain. It came out of the blue. I got an email and I was like, is this a joke? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how cool. I haven't won an award since high school.
Awesome.
And I think it just shows that people are paying attention.
Yeah.
That there's change coming, the economy is changing, that there is a new internet that is about value creation and value transfer.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredibly important for women to have a role in that. And I was really excited that Microsoft recognized the work that I've been able to do on 22X because we've been out there talking about changing the market, right? Changing VC. It's a boys' game.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about what you think is going to drive this change and how is it going to change the fundraising model for women in particular?
I think it can change the fundraising model for women because essentially for the first time you have this decentralized economy where anyone can participate. So anyone can potentially come in and actually buy tokens or equity in your company, and it can be very easily managed through the blockchain.
Right.
Technically, that's actually very hard to do in a traditional venture fund. The second thing is that when founders are cooperating to organize themselves, like into a cooperative of companies, they don't need to charge the fees that VCs charge. So for every dollar, if I'm an investor in a VC fund, every dollar I put in, I only get 80 cents back.
Right.
When I get 80 cents, because I'm paying 20 cents in fees. So for that 80 cents to actually become valuable, I need a return that's like $1 billion.
Right.
Right? And you need a 1,000x return, a 100x return. But if founders are organizing, you can give someone a 10x return, a 5x return, a 7x return. They're still making a lot of money. They're still making more money than if they had put money in the public stock market. And you're getting everyone funded at the same time. And you're able to organize people into these sort of portfolios. So that's where I think that women have a greater chance of getting funding. They can go to a wider pool of investors. They can create a financial model that actually gets people better, gives investors good returns, but gets more companies funded. And I think that's really exciting. And I think that the beauty of blockchain right now is that I never imagined that my search for funding would lead me to this podcast, to TED, to creating a fund, a tokenized venture fund that operates through cryptocurrency. Like, how crazy. Yeah. But it's because I really just was following my path, right? And the right opportunities were coming along the way. I was curious and I was just sort of walking along, hoping for the best. And I think if with this new technology, if more founders and more women start to say, hey, could I invent a new model to access capital? Imagine what could be created, right?
Right.
You had 30 companies come together and we created 22X. There's thousands of companies out there. There's thousands of smart founders. There's millions of smart women. What could they do if they start to look at blockchain and start saying, what could we create that could be a new financial model rather than following the old system and the traditional steps that you normally take with VC?
Yeah, and we know that the VC model is somewhat dated.
Yeah, it hasn't evolved. It literally, VC is designed to fund innovation, but it has not innovated. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Right? And that's why blockchain is exciting. And because it hasn't innovated, it's operating on the rules that existed 20 years ago, which was a boys club and knowing knowing social networks that lead you to get funding. You know what I mean? And that has to change now because we're in a golden era of entrepreneurship. There's more opportunities to build companies than ever before.
Right.
The idea that we're not creating new financial models to fund those companies is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm very excited about it myself. What's the thing that you're the most excited about when it comes to the blockchain space and the opportunities that it represents?
I think it's wealth creation. I think it's wealth creation for a whole new set of people. That the tech boom from 99, 96, all of that, we were really young and we couldn't participate in it, but we're adults and we're in kind of the prime of our careers, and we could actually help change the system into something better, and we could actually spread kind of abundance in a way that I think couldn't happen before.
Yeah. Why do you think blockchain is the new internet?
I think blockchain's the new internet. I think it's the new internet because it's we're still at the stage of it where it's HTTPS, right? Or TCP/IP. No one knows what that means, but they know they get online through it. They know they access Facebook through it. They know that they can watch Netflix through it.
Yeah.
That's where we are with blockchain right now.
Right.
We know that we can send Bitcoin to someone and that Bitcoin represents some money. That's really basic, but it's just the start of what that could potentially mean. No one imagined Netflix really when HTTPS got started. That's why I think it's the new internet, because I think we're just starting to think of the ideas and the innovation and the imagination needed to apply the technology to new things. And 5 years from now, you and I could be, sitting here having a massively different conversation because of all the new stuff that's been invented.
Yeah. If you were to give some advice to someone who's trying to stumble into the blockchain space, especially a young woman that's interested in entering it, what would be the one thing you would recommend they do?
I think it's two things. One is that you have to do it together. So it's like go somewhere where people are interested in this and start to volunteer on a project, just like work on a project. Yeah. I started like helping with PR and marketing on this fund. Right. Like no one really took me that seriously. Like I was this person that came in, I was very good at asking questions, like probably communicated, I had a background as a journalist, so I could communicate well. And I said, well, I'll help with PR. I'll help with the marketing, and I'll help design the website.
Yeah, nice.
And like now I'm like kind of helping lead the offering, right? So you never know where you can go.
Yeah, now you're one of the founding partners. Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that's interesting about this, I think in older dated systems and the boys club, women are typically valued as employees or service providers, you know? So what do you think changes in the blockchain space?
That's an interesting question. I think it's about them getting in early. I think it's about playing the role. I think the importance of the skills that women are supposedly have, soft skills, communication skills, market, whatever. I mean, I think that's bullshit too. But I think that actually those are really incredibly important when you're creating new technologies. Yeah. And so there's a bigger role to play by being able to communicate the value of what you're doing, then we value communication more as a society as well, right? So I think that's where the route in as a consultant or a service provider or whatever it may be, that there's an opportunity to create firms or companies or even services tied to sort of heightening the natural skill set that someone has.
What if they really want a seat at the table and drive the capital and the economic change?
I think you should, look like so VCs, they say this, that the combination of a female CEO and a tech CTO, male or female, is very powerful. Women-led companies often have greater returns than traditional
I think
companies.
The percentage is quite astronomical.
It's pretty high.
It's like closer to it's actually close to the 60% range.
If you want a seat at the table, find a group of tech people. It could be women, but it also should be men too. That you can join and be part of that team. I mean, smart people rise to the top. Yeah. It just works that way. And, if you have those sort of skills, or even if you're just learning, so that it's the second startup or the third startup, I think that experience is what's going to drive you forward. But it's getting involved.
Yeah.
It's getting involved. And I think women should have a seat at the table. Like, it's super important. And I think having things like the Blockchain Week, that we saw, and we were at some events together, even Microsoft sponsoring awards, whatever, because we've started to talk about the problems in VC at the same time that there's a new technology coming, how exciting. Yeah. Because people start to understand you need to get in there first and be able to kind of shape that new movement.
Yeah. I'd say one difference I've seen or I've noticed over the last few weeks is that, it used to be hard to have access, and you would have to work for access in order to even take a seat at the table. And it seems in the blockchain space, it's a matter of walking in and taking the seat.
Yeah, because it's new. There are many seats at the table. They need seats to be filled. Right?
So just walk in, take a seat.
Right? Like, you just don't know where you're going to go. And I think that's the beauty of things. Like, just be open-minded. Like, my entire career has been based on serendipity and luck.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you this story. Like, my career started after Brown. When I graduated, I went to work for Howard Dean, who was the OG Bernie Sanders, right? Yeah. Like, total progressive candidate. He lost, and I still wanted to keep working on the campaigns, and I wanted to write, and John Kerry was going to be the presidential candidate, and I couldn't get a job, even though, no one was really helping out. And I went to DC anyway, and I just started to meet with people and asked to meet with people. And I was in a Starbucks, and I heard a woman on the phone, and I just knew she had worked on the Howard Dean campaign. And I was so nervous to go up to her, but I went up to her. Finally, I was like, hi, my name is Ashwini. I was an organizer. Like, my voice was really high. And I said, did you work on the Howard Dean campaign? And she goes, yeah, I did. And we started talking, and she was like, I just left my job on the Kerry campaign. They could totally hire you for it, and it's a writing position. You'll be an opposition researcher. And I sent my application in, and they called her for a reference, and she acted like she knew me my entire life and said I was awesome. And so I ended up getting this job. That job led me to NBC News, where I wrote for the Today Show. I went on to cover Barack Obama. I then went on from that job to go be at BuzzFeed because like one of my fellow campaign reporters became editor-in-chief there. I mean, it led that meeting and that one chance encounter. I credit that with opening so many doors for me. So you just don't know when you walk in. And that's why people say go to a meetup, go out. Yeah. Go talk to people because you don't know, like, what could happen. And you shouldn't have any expectations, I think, but still be open-minded.
Yeah, I agree. I think my life's journey has been 90% about showing up, mostly in random places I didn't expect, where I had conversations with people I would have never dreamt I would have, that led to new opportunities that then moved my career path forward. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, the basic advice would be walk out that door, find the people you want to be surrounded by, have a conversation, and see where it takes you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Be open-minded, don't have too many expectations, and just see what happens. Right? Because it is like, I mean, luck, one of the TED residents actually is doing this talk on how AI can influence luck.
Really?
Yes. Very interesting. I'll put you in touch with him. Yeah. And but it's, because so much in life can happen by a chance encounter, but you have to be out there for it, right? And I feel like my career has been very much like that, but I've also been curious. I've tried to put myself in the right places.
What does that mean, put yourself in the right places?
Well, let's use a simple example. When the coffee shop in Starbucks, right? I wasn't getting any meetings. I just decided to go to DC. Right. Just decided to show up. You're a nomad, Sylvia. Yeah. You know that story better than anybody else.
Sounds like a plan. I'm going to get on an airplane and go there.
Just go, right? You just go, you just show up, you see what happens. Maybe it goes well, maybe it doesn't, but you tried. Yeah. So you don't have that regret either. For the cryptocurrency stuff, right? It was so interesting. They were talking about it, and I didn't understand a word back at 500 Startups. But there was a meeting, and they were doing an information session, and they had someone coming in. And so I went to the meeting, and I asked a lot of smart questions. And that opened the door to being part of the team, And it just keeps going like that. Yeah. You volunteer to help out, and I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm very good at just going somewhere to show up and checking it out. Somebody actually told me that the other day, that from the day she met me, she always notices me being places I may not be invited to, but I'm just simply curious. So I sit there and ask questions. And I thought, really? I'm like, do you really do it that often, so frequently? Because I do. I'm curious. That's why I like this podcast so much, because it gives me an opportunity to ask tons of questions to people. It's my favorite thing. Yeah.
But curiosity opens a lot of doors, right? Because you are asking questions then. And when you're curious, you're excited about something, right? Or you're interested enough to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it takes away the fear of what the unknown might be, and it really just makes it exciting because there's so much opportunity constantly rolling in simply by being curious. You know, I would say that's I just summarize my secret to success. It's that.
Yeah, I think it works.
You
well.
did it.
I did.
You defined it.
Yeah, I defined it. Curious Sylvia. Like
just
Curious
go
George,
and
but better.
Questions.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. So if people want to find you, how are they going to do that?
So they can do it in a few ways. You can tweet at me at Anburajan, my last name, Anburajan.
Yeah, we'll put the link below.
Yeah, and 22xfund.com as well. Pretty good on Twitter. I'll get back to you. I use LinkedIn a lot, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to hear from people if I have time. I'm always happy to do a coffee or a call as well. And I think that we're at a new future. Someone put this really well to me when they came to blockchain. They said that the first version of the internet was a publishing medium, and it impacted 1 to 3 trillion in value. The second version of the internet is a value transfer medium, like a bank or an exchange, right? It's about the creation and transfer of money. That can impact 40 to 50 trillion in value. Yeah. So think about the changes that can come. Wouldn't you want to be part of that?
I do. I do. I think we're creating a new future, and I want to be part of it, and I wanted a seat at the table. And I'm so grateful I got invited in. So thanks for making the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Join us at the DNX Festival in September in Lisbon. If you go to our website and use the promo code podcast50, you get an extra 50 euros off your ticket. And subscribe to this channel and leave us a review if you can. We will review these frequently, and you can leave us a question that we will answer live online. Until next time.